welcome back to another video. I am in the Outer Banks today, and we are going to go on a wild horse tour. If you don't know, wild horses live on the Outer Banks, and we're going to go see them. So yeah, come follow along, because you can go on a vacation with an equestrian, but you cannot take the equestrian out of the vacation.
And here is the fit check for today. Super cute, just so adorable. And here we are on the little tram ride thing over. I'm going to be voicing over all of this because it sounds terrible, which I will show you in the next clip. As you can see, we're on the road. It's super cute. Honestly, just the experience of driving like this on the road was super fun. Here's the noise, as you can hear. Just super, super terrible. Anyway, we finally made it onto the beach after a little while. If you've never been to the Outer Banks, I'd recommend trying to go if you can. It's gorgeous. The water's amazing. The waves aren't too big. It's just a lovely place altogether. Now we're going to travel around the beach for some time before we get to the horses. Here was the first horse we saw in front of a house. My camera was not good because we were driving. She had one eye, and if you kind of look, you can see a mass on the side of her face, which has made her other eye obsolete, or it wasn't there. I didn't really ask, but she was just chilling. Very beautiful, flaxen chestnut. We loved her. She gets hidden by the hill a little bit, and then you can see her better here. And then we're going to continue on down the beach. Here's another horse we saw, a Bronco. I'm so funny. Anyway, on this tour, you kind of go back into the neighborhoods and stuff, which is also a lot of fun. So here we are just climbing up the hill. This is like an all-terrain vehicle, so it gets a little bouncy, but it's a lot of fun. The camera does not do it justice for how steep and aggressive these hills are. They don't stay steep for long, but you're going up it and you're like, oh my god. Of course there are seat belts, so everything is safe, but look at that landscape. I mean, that is just absolutely gorgeous. And there's a whole bunch of houses out in this landscape that you can rent. As you can see, we're kind of panning over to one, and the horses will just go up and in between these houses, as you're going to see later in the video. So if you have a 4x4 vehicle, you can rent these houses and get out there. They actually tend to be a little cheaper because of the vehicle requirements, and you can wake up with a horse in your yard. Pretty cool. That flat patch of sand you're seeing is in fact the road, and that's basically the road for the entirety of this journey. Of course, our driver was very, very capable. He's done this hundreds of times, knew the landscape, and he even knew where most of the horses like to hang out. Because as you know, these horses are feral. They're not wild, because for a horse to be wild, it has to be untouched by humans. But if you watch the video, you can kind of see us shaking on the bumps a bit and stuff. That's just because it's so rough. The horses do tend to stay a little bit further back, we were told. So here's just more shots of the landscape and the beautiful houses. There will be some horses straight on the beach. However, very rarely are you going to see the bulk of your horses there. Now, these horses are being managed, but other than that, there's really no intervention. They do die of natural causes, occasionally of people hitting them. That is rare, but still happens. Here you can see there's 3 horses back there just grazing right in someone's property. There was a 4th one hiding around back. They like to form mini herds, so it can be groups of 8 or 4 like you see here. But as you can see, they're super, super cute, and you can just wake up and see them. So I think that's really cool. I think this chestnut right here is pregnant, but also I don't know these horses. It could be a stallion for all I know. They do not geld their horses. No. Because as I said, these horses are feral, so they're not going to geld them. It just doesn't make sense.
Oh, is that one in the back?
There's a whole lot of forage available on the island for them, because it is technically an island, the Outer Banks, but they are contained to one little area of Corolla. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. There's more bumpy riding and stuff. As you can see, it can get a bit rough, so I had motion sickness and I took some medicine. I'd recommend it. Here you're going to see more horses. And if you look in the back, you can see that
There's
one
a
with the short
baby!
tail. That is actually one of the foals that they had that year. I believe they had a total of 7. They don't name most of their foals till they're older, however, because people will come and bother the foals and separate them from their parents and stuff, and it's just gross. So here's more of the landscape. You will get brushed going past things, and here I am with my sunglasses. I thought I looked hot, so of course I had to, cut in. But I know y'all are here to see the horses, so we're on our way to more horses. There are a lot of hills, like I said, so you're just going to see a lot of that. And then here we are on the outside. Once again, my camera doesn't know how to stable with my arms. And there was this horse laying down, just chilling. He was a stallion, super cute.
Oh yeah, he's
Our
taking
tour
a
guide
nap.
stopped and he let us get out. Not to pet him, because you're not allowed to touch him. You're not allowed to get close to him. If he's right here next to the highway, which it is a highway, even though it's on sand, you are not allowed to stop your vehicle and you're not allowed to touch him. However, as you saw in the intro clip, you can get kind of close. So here we are getting out, super excited. And then here I am going out with him behind me. And my dad's taking a picture for me. We love him for that. Our guide is also a wildlife photographer, so you can see him there taking a picture with him. Now, he started to get worried because people were stopping and this horse wasn't getting up for a while. So we were concerned about that. However, as you can see, the Wildlife Management Foundation showed up to make sure he was okay. They don't really do much. They thought he might have been extremely dehydrated because of how hot it was, in which case they would have offered him a little bit of water so he could get to the water, which is all the way on the other side. Now here he is preparing to get up. It does take him a little bit, but he does end up getting up, so he is in fact okay, and there's nothing wrong with him in the sense that he can't get up or he can't move or anything like that. It is my understanding that they will occasionally do euthanasias if a horse is suffering really, really bad, but once again, this guy's gonna get up. He was just taking his sweet time, as anyone who owns horses know. They love to lay in the sun, and the sand is nice and warm. So there he goes, getting up. Apparently he has sired some foals. They don't really know which ones, but they suspect that that band with the foal that we saw earlier, because it was all mares, that might be his band because he was relatively close, because we did a big loop around. And here he is again, just chilling. He's getting up, he's flicking his tail. He's not all that concerned. He's a little lethargic, but it's a wild horse and it's hot. It was about 102 degrees, so he was, just not doing good. He was itching his face, though. Like, the heat wasn't good, but he was doing fine considering the heat, if that makes sense. Based on my knowledge of horses. Granted, these horses could be completely different. They're technically Spanish horses. Basically, they would wreck on the reef out there in the ocean, and they would push their horses off the ship and they'd swim to shore. That is a sea turtle habitat. There's a whole bunch of them around. It was actually a nest dug into it, and they mark it out so people can't get to them and stuff. But they're Spanish horses that they had swim ashore, so I'm sure if you got them under saddle, they'd be very pretty movers, but you're not allowed to do that. These aren't like BLM Mustangs that you can adopt. Here is yet another herd. As you can see, they all have pretty fat bellies, so we didn't end up seeing any emaciated horses, any horses limping, or anything like that, because even though they are feral, they are managed extremely well. There was about 5 in this cluster, then there was about 3 down the road. As you'll see a little later, they'll follow the car and kind of join up with them. But they're all looking super cute. She's just itching her leg there. She's not actually stuck. It's okay, don't worry. And then there's the other guys. Once again, the car is moving, so you're gonna have to excuse my terrible recording skills. Now, you might say these horses look emaciated because their backs look weird and they don't have a top line. These horses are not being ridden, so a lot of them aren't gonna have a super developed top line because they just don't need it. I mean, they're basically walking all around the island. There's no real predators, so there's no real reason for them to run except for each other, which they do end up hurting each other sometimes. And this was a really cool experience. They end up coming behind us and
They're
walking behind us, which was super, super cool.
No, they're
We love to see
14
it.
and a half. Pony's 14.
And it was just really cool to see this many, because the last time I went when I was really young, there was like none. Now this guy is in someone's yard, and he's allowed to do that, and he's just eating his grass, because while there's a lot of forage, there's a well-maintained lawn with really nutritious, bright green grass. Of course, you're going to eat that. And as you can see, they were still following us, so these horses aren't afraid of people at all. If anything, they're kind of interested in them. As you can see, here's some more manicured lawns and grass, and the horses are there just eating. That's also a source of fresh water for them to drink as well, so none of these horses have any issues with not being able to find water. I really liked the chestnuts and like the flaxen chestnuts. There used to be white horses in this herd, but the last one was struck by a drunk driver in the 90s, so no more white horses. And then here is yet another herd. As you can see, there's so many horses, because they're being managed properly, so their numbers are jumping back up, which is great, because, I mean, they live here. Yeah, they're not native to North America, but it's still really cool to see, and they're not causing any big havoc on the environment. They're not endangering any native species or anything like that, so it's really just a great thing. You're not allowed to touch them, as you can see by these signs that are just all over. It's a huge no-no, and especially don't feed them, because you don't know what a horse is allergic to. For instance, my horse Toddy, well, my sister's horse Toddy, is allergic to all types of grains, which includes things in cereal, things in horse treats, flax seeds, oats, everything like that. So she can just have grass. And there's that guy who was just standing up. He made it to the top of the hill and was meandering on. So he was also fine. I know we spent a lot of time on him, but he walked off into the thing. Now we're just going. And they only go about like 40 miles an hour, but it still feels really fast. And now we're leaving. Thank you so much for watching. And remember, the world is dangerous, so don't die out there.